Good morning, everybody. Well, good morning for us. Probably not morning for anyone else but the people ahead of us. But welcome to our review of Spider-Man Far From Home.
I'm Roth Cornet.
I'm Dan Murrell. We are taking the place of your normally scheduled programming because the embargo for Spider-Man Far From Home dropped this morning. So we're here with our non-spoiler review. Roth and I were talking about this before the show starts. We will be walking a tightrope because we're live. We will not be dropping any spoilers, so if we seem to be pausing a lot and considering our words, it's because we don't want to spoil the movie for anybody.
And we are currently living in terror. That said, let's talk about Spider-Man. In total, obviously, Tom Holland has been in several films as Spider-Man right now. I think that largely he is beloved and beyond accepted. This is some people's favorite Spider-Man. He's mine. It's okay, we can debate that later. He continues to be in this film. They continue to evolve his character. They certainly acknowledge the events of Endgame and the headspace that would have put this character in, Peter in, and they play that throughout this film, and it sort of accounts for some of his actions and decisions in this film. Did I walk that tightrope well enough, Dan?
You did. I think you walked it very well, yes. I will also go far enough out on a limb to say that this movie deals very much with the idea of legacy.
Yes.
With the idea of moving on. One of the things I liked about it was not a follow-up to Endgame in the sense that it mentioned what happened in a throwaway manner. There are some funny jokes about the implications of what happened in Endgame in the world. But it also takes very seriously. It does feel like, and one of the things I liked about this movie is it feels like it is both its own movie,
yes,
and a really meaningful follow-up in the MCU as regards what happened in Endgame. How are we doing so far?
Yeah, are you buying this? And I also want to asterisk, he's my favorite Peter Parker. So here's the other thing that I thought was very well crafted in this film in terms of that is that we're far enough along now, 23 films in, now 24, that I think that the balance between an individual film, a film that is part of a particular franchise, meaning Spider-Man, and existing within the MCU in total, has been struck. So this is very much a character film, and it's contained. You know, it's not huge. There's not 10 million villains. There's not 10 million characters. There's very much in the line of this character, a teenage boy trying to navigate the trials and tribulations of adolescence, which he is very self-aware, you know, understands that he also has to carry this mantle. And they have a lot of fun with the idea that, you know, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man isn't perhaps ready for the cataclysmic events that the Avengers face on a daily, hourly basis. Yeah. That said, I do think there was a bit of a stretch in terms of, I really like this movie. It is funny, it is smart, it's well crafted, it plays with the tropes. I really like the character development. The one thing is in the plot, I think there is a fair bit of stretching to put him in the circumstance in which he finds himself without the amount of support that one would anticipate would potentially be present.
Yes, I
How was that
agree. That was so good that I'm a little confused. I'm sitting, and I've seen the movie, that I'm sitting here trying to figure it out.
He's facing a threat that he should have backup for and doesn't, and a lot of elements have to come into play to justify why he doesn't.
The spoiler review is going to be very interesting because I have some thoughts on that. Yes, and what I liked, what I think kept us fresh was we have seen Spider-Man movies before that are about balancing Peter Parker and Spider-Man, and I want my own life, but I have the burden of being a superhero. We've seen a few Spider-Man movies take that on. That's a recurring theme of the character. What this movie does very well, and why it didn't feel like a rehash for me, is that they took that theme and tied it in directly to this Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So it's not just the character of Peter Parker or the character of Spider-Man who's struggling with these things. It's very closely tied to this iteration of the character, these specific circumstances, these specific people that we've come to know, and these specific versions of these characters. Otherwise, I think it would have felt like, oh, we've been here before. We've done this before.
Yeah.
In much the same way that Spider-Man Homecoming, I thought, took on the theme of taking on a vast amount of power and figuring out how to find that hero inside of yourself. And so many other movies have done that, but they tied that so closely to this Tom Holland version.
Right.
And his own personal struggles. I think it works well in this movie. Jake Gyllenhaal is a delight.
Oh, he is an absolute. I mean, look, Jake Gyllenhaal has always been an incredible actor. He was robbed for Nightcrawler, in my opinion.
It was
like
larceny.
I don't know if it's Toni Collette level, but it's certainly approaching it. And he does absolutely deliver in this movie. There's a sequence in which it could feel like a sort of cheated exposition dump in the middle of the movie.
Big time.
But because he is so good, and because John Watts, the filmmaker, the director, is so aware of that as a trope, that it doesn't become a parody of that.
Yes.
However, it rides that line, so it's self-aware. You're laughing with the movie, not at the movie in that moment. And they manage to pull off what should be nearly impossible. And they do the same thing with like these big. You've seen him. You've seen his look.
Yeah.
You know, they have these like over the tops. We're just going there. Comic book elements, and they absolutely nail it.
That's one of the things I love the most about this movie was I think that there are a few sequences that go as far into drawing not comic book style, but like as far as taking the movie into the world of an actual bright 70s Spider-Man comic book, in the sense of just the visual, the crazy visuals, like over the like Jack Kirby type stuff that could look so silly. And has looked so silly. Amazing Spider-Man 2 is a movie that I think went cartoonish, but in the wrong way, and it just looked silly and dumb, and it wasn't executed properly.
And we've talked about this thing too,
yes,
which is very dangerous.
It's silly, but the circumstances that they create around it felt the most like they were actually drawing an actual comic book in the film in that style. I could see the way that this would be a panel on a page, just direct, not like, oh, we adapted it, but like literally a panel to screen thing. But it was done. The style of this film I really, really liked. But it's hard. You can't say it's he plays Mysterio. You can say that. And then
that's all
you can say, because if you know the character, if you don't know the character, there's inferences you could draw. I can't say whether those are right or wrong. It's just that Jake Gyllenhaal's great and he plays Mysterio. That's all we can say.
He's great. He plays Mysterio. And I will say this visually, in terms of the action, you know, we had talked about this particularly, and I don't want to, but with Dark Phoenix and John Watts, the construction of the action, and his team, you know, in terms of how they use what the foes in this film are able to do, and the elements of that to take you into different. You know what? Backing away. The action in the film is incredibly well executed. Peter, in terms of how he fights and the way he fights and the way they've been using him doing this really well in general with how Spider-Man is able to fight. And they continue that with this film, but they take it to another level with how these villains are able to fight.
Yeah. And
the two come together in terms of the expanse of his skills and what's fully developed and what's not. And it makes it visually some of the more compelling action sequences that I've seen in a comic book movie in a long, long time.
Yeah.
Because it's not cheating, it's not doing the same thing over and over again. It is doing something completely new and fresh.
Yeah.
And it's something that is based in deep character angst, which is always the best action, where the action comes from character and the circumstances, the needs and motivations of the character. It's gorgeous. So I can't recommend the action enough, and that's all I'm going to say, because I feel like, Dan, I need you to step in now.
Yes, no, there's not really much more we can say, because it's a movie that's very predicated on unfolding.
Yes.
And things happening.
There's lots of reveals.
As they happen, there's a lot of reveals. I think we can say, we were talking about before, that beyond the movie itself, the end credit scenes, there are two, as there are in almost every Marvel movie. The two end credit scenes
Bold.
are probably the most consequential two end credit scenes. It's not one of those things where it's like one of them is like a big thing for the next movie, and then the other one's kind of like a laugh. It's a throwaway. It's an ant playing drums or something. No. You need to. You have to stay for both of them because they are both very, very big.
They're very consequential, and this is what's also interesting. They're very, very consequential for the universe in total,
yes,
but also for the film.
Yes, they recontextualize the entire film. They recontextualize
something that, as I mentioned earlier, I initially had a problem with.
Yes.
And then went, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. So you got to stay, both for this film and also for the future films. And then the only thing that I'll also say is, like, I think why some of those tropes feel fresh here is, look, this is just really good writing, acting, and directing. It's funny. Mm-hmm. The emotion is there. It's not overplayed. They know how to toe the line tonally. But also who the characters around him have been updated. Why he likes MJ is updated. You know, who she is a very modern character, and it's not done in a ham-fisted way that feels like you don't understand that character. She's real. So is May.
Yeah.
You know,
I was not a fan of Zendaya in the last movie at all.
Right.
Did not like her character. Just didn't like it.
There's a vulnerability here.
They really upgraded MJ's character in this movie. She's much more fleshed out.
Yeah.
And I just thought she was very one note in Spider-Man Homecoming. I like where they took her character. There's really no downgrade for anybody. I felt like they built on everybody from the last movie to this movie. And I think what's great about this one and what could bode well for how it's going to do is it's not just a fun movie. It's a great summer movie.
It's a great and I say this in a good way. Classic popcorn, go enjoy yourself at the theater movie.
It's the kind of summer movie that I feel like people like me who, you know, were throwbacks to the days of the 90s when, you know, the big summer blockbusters were entering a re-emergence of their heyday. But it's the kind of summer movie that I reference when I talk about, like, there's good blockbusters and there's bad blockbusters. Yeah. Like, this is the kind of movie that is a great summer movie. Big action, a great cast, some laughs, some thrills, and you can go see it again. Yes. I think it holds up to going to see it again. And that's when I say, like, that's a great summer movie. It's the kind of summer movie that so many other studios try to make that they whiff on because they can't get all the elements right. This one gets all those elements right.
And the only thing that I'll add to that, because I couldn't agree more, that was the biggest thing that I was thinking coming out of it, is like, this is the kind of summer movie we want, where we talk about things like empty calories. There are some summer movies that feel like not only are they empty calories, they are literally taking something from your mind and your soul.
They're draining something out of you. They're sucking something out of your brain.
Essence out of you. They are removing things. So this is incredibly pleasurable, but I think the key for me, and we were just touching on this a little bit, is that it is entirely grounded in characters and the evolution and of character, and they have hired like every single person that is a part of this production is so skilled at what they do, whether they are an actor, a writer, or director, visual effects. Every single piece of this is incredibly well crafted. I highly recommend it. Again, this is a popcorn summer movie. I think there's a difference between that and the things that we'll probably be talking about around a couple of months here. However, it is a great, 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 great summer movie and a great comic book movie.
Yeah. Big recommendation from me.
And a great high school movie.
A really fun and entertaining and really good movie and a great summer
Coming
movie.
of age, yeah.
Also a big recommendation for me. I think if you are a Spider-Man fan, if you're a Marvel fan, if you just like big, fun movies, I think you're going to like it. I liked it a lot. So there you go. I think we accomplished it, Roth.
I think we did. I'm pretty sure I was in a ball of yarn here and there. So thank you for sticking with us. And we will be doing a spoiler chat that will go up the week that it is opened, which is
it opens next
week
on Tuesday, I think, or Wednesday. I forget which day. It's Tuesday to get ahead of the...
It will be up on Friday the 5th.
Friday the 5th, we'll have a spoiler chat. We don't know what we're doing around here. We might
do it earlier. We'll talk about it because you know people might not want to wait like 3 days. We'll talk about it. We'll figure it out.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Look for the spoiler chat. Exactly.
Look for the spoiler chat.
Look for the spoiler chat. It'll be up next week.
Let us know what you think of Spider-Man Far From Home in the comments below. And that's it. Bye.
Thanks for watching.